Am I the a-hole for being territorial over my husband in front of my sister-in-law? My sister-in-law Angela is the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in person. And fortunately, she also thrives off of male attention. A few years ago, my brother caught Angela in an affair with my then fiancé. We were 2 months away from our wedding. They both blamed each other. My brother forgave Angela, but I wasn't able to forgive my fiancé. I met my now husband Ezra shortly afterwards. We were both hurt from our last relationship. I think we were both so wrapped up in heartbreak that we got married almost out of spite, desperate hurt, and rebounding. Ezra knew my ex cheated, but not with whom. I kept to myself for a couple of reasons. The main reason being I love my family, and I had to tolerate Angela for the sake of family. A year ago, Ezra made a passing comment about some of my family members being weird and having to block them. I brushed it off then because my family can be a bit much. They use WhatsApp like a personal diary. Angela came up to me a few days later and told me that she was sorry, but she thought I had gotten rid of my anger and hurt already. She said she worked for forgiveness and couldn't believe what I was insinuating out of spite and asked for an apology. I had no idea what she was talking about, and she got frustrated and told me that she knew I texted her from Ezra's phone. I came home and asked Ezra, and he simply handed over his phone. Angela was flirting with him in a subtle way and was insinuating they could start an affair. Ezra brushed her off and finally responded with, "I'm happily married. This is inappropriate. Don't text me again." I have no words to describe how I felt. Ezra's work has him interact with a ton of attractive young women. He's charming and attractive and can have so many options. He's turned down people before, but seeing how easily he brushed off Angela sparked something within me. I fell more in love with Ezra than I thought possible. He's literally my dream man, and I've fantasized about him like a teenage girl reading her first romance book. I've always found him attractive, but it's on another level, and I blanket him with affection. Ezra was taken off guard, but he pretty much welcomed my new feelings and affection. It's like he can't get enough and pushes what he can do. So Ezra and I went on vacation with my family a couple days ago. I was sure to keep it appropriate for everyone, but my husband and I held hands. I kissed his cheek, I hugged his arm, and we cuddled. My brother came to me and said that I was making Angela uncomfortable by being territorial over Ezra. He said he saw the messages too, and there was nothing inappropriate, and I should stop punishing her for my ex-fiancé's behavior. I said I wasn't going to change my behavior for Angela. She came up to me afterwards and asked if I was going to continue being childish and deeply jealous of innocent interactions, or if I was going to grow up. Angela said I made everyone uncomfortable with my behavior, and I just called her two-faced. We had to cut the vacation short because of our constant arguing, and my parents are annoyed at both of us. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I just sent my brother the texts from Ezra's phone in case my brother saw an edited version from Angela. I haven't heard back from him. Now for the top comments. I'm happy for you. Screw Angela. She can buzz right off. Not the a-hole. I'm so grateful for Ezra. My garbage ex-fiancé and I knew each other since we were kids. He promised to love and respect me. He was still telling me those things while he was cheating on me with Angela. A part of me broke that day. Mutual friends told me that they could see why he did it. I can see it too. Angela's that beautiful. But was those weeks with her worth my years and years of love? She broke up with him the second they got found out. He didn't want to be with me, and I couldn't forgive him either. I was so afraid Ezra would turn out this way, especially when so many men I personally knew, men I considered to be good people, admitted they would go for her and just hide it. Everyone says fidelity is a low bar, but when so many people fail to reach it, it really makes you wonder. I was afraid of loving him fully because a part of me thought that if Angela were to do anything, he would cheat on me with her or break boundaries or something. But he stood up for our marriage. He told me the truth and didn't even make it a big deal. He's ignored many more beautiful, successful, and talented women because he made a commitment to me. There's literally nothing more attractive than that. Why the heck is your brother mad about you being affectionate with your husband? Why does Angela care? Your brother is a chump and he wants everyone else to be one too. Go ahead, be bold with him, kiss him, touch him. There aren't any laws preventing you to do so. Angela convinced him I was doing this because I was afraid of her stealing my husband, even though she had done nothing wrong. Lol. I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't that affectionate with Ezra before. But seeing him being an upstanding, loving husband with strong boundaries, of course I'm going weak at the knees. Next story. Am I the a-hole for laughing when my niece was sorta rude to my brother's fiancé, aka her dad's fiancé? My brother has a horrific track record with relationships. He has been married 3 times, technically 4, but that one was annulled so is no longer considered to count. And he has been engaged a grand total of 7 times, including this one. My niece, his only child, does not come from any of those relationships. She was so lucky to be born before he started his string of relationships. She has been painfully aware of most of them. Only 2 of the engagements happened before she was old enough to remember, but one of the 2 came back and tried to act like my niece would remember her, despite her being in her life for less than 4 months when she was only 2. Anyway, current fiancé and my brother have been together for 5 months. They're already engaged, and we were invited dress shopping. By we, I mean my niece, my mom, my older sister, and I. My brother paid my niece to attend because she wasn't going to. Well, at the appointment, my brother's fiancée, let's call her Kelly for the sake of the post, was trying to get my niece to act more excited than she was. She'd focus on getting her opinion and made a suggestion of matching mother-daughter accessories for the wedding. My niece is 20, by the way. Kelly was really pushing for my niece to be more present, and eventually she snapped and asked her why is she not more excited for the new chapter in their family and excited to get a new mom. My niece replied that Kelly was nothing special, and she's still not holding her breath that they make it down the aisle, and she's not going to be excited for step-mommy number 100. She also added that even if her dad and Kelly make it down the aisle, this is not even close to his first marriage. And she knows him and knows there's nothing different about this relationship, so she knows it will be over within the next 3 years. Kelly looked so shocked, but I laughed, and so did my sister, while my mom couldn't take her eyes off something very interesting in the corner. Kelly was so offended that my sister and I laughed, and she said we should be teaching our niece better. My brother said nothing, but Kelly demanded an apology. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You can't control if you find something funny or not. As for demanding an apology, sometimes the truth hurts. Maybe Kelly didn't get the full story yet in the whole 5 months they've been dating. Another a-hole point for Kelly is asking a legal adult if they are excited to get a new mom. Lady, you're gonna be my dad's wife even if it lasts until the day you die. I don't know what else you're expecting. My dad's evil second wife tried that crap with me. I was in my 40s and she wanted me to call her mom. I refused and generally referred to her as Florence. Yeah, a friend of mine had a similar situation, like yours, but he lived in Maryland and they lived in like Idaho. Somebody kept referring to her as his stepmother, and it's like, I've met her 3 times in my life. I would correct anyone and everyone who referred to my mom's second husband as my stepfather. No way was that a-hole, may he never rest in peace, my stepfather. Titles like that are a choice on the part of the person giving them, especially when that person is an adult. Not the a-hole. Laughing at your niece's comment. I've been tempted to say the same. My dad is on his 4th wife and had countless other relationships of varying seriousness. Fortunately, wife number 4 doesn't seem all that invested in being a stepmom to my brother and I, in our 30s and 40s. And I don't really care. She's his wife until she isn't. That's a good thing at least. I'm not sure why she believes a 20-year-old woman with a living mom who does not live with her dad would consider them mom and daughter. But I guess she's thinking that will make her the different relationship out of them all. Delusions of momhood and family? Come everyone, look at my bouncing baby. 20-year-old. Ah yes, the bouncing 20-year-old trend. Let's forget about the baby showers and birth announcements and start announcing our 20-year-olds. Lol. Next story. Am I the a-hole for wanting my mom to only babysit my kids and not my brothers? So I'm 37 female, I'm married and have 2 kids, 11 and 8. My husband and I both work full-time corporate jobs, so we don't get home until 5 to 6 p.m. every night. We used to have a nanny who would pick the kids up from school and stay at home until one of us came back. Almost a year ago, my father unfortunately passed, leaving my mother, 60 female, alone. So between her, my husband and I, we all thought it would be best for my mother to move in with us. It basically became the arrangement that my husband and I renovated our home to recreate an in-law suite for my mom to live in full-time. And we helped take care of her bills, and she will essentially replace our nanny and look after our kids 2:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday. It's been great having her around, but the issue is that my brother, 32 male, and his wife, sister-in-law, think it's unfair and showing favorites if my mom only babysits my kids and not theirs. Last week, sister-in-law literally just dropped off her kids, 2 and 4, at my house as soon as my husband and I left for work, and I only found out through my Ring camera. My husband and I don't want my brother's kids at our house because 1, they're very young and our house is not baby-proofed. It has many fragile items I know they will try to get into. 2, the 4-year-old is extremely spoiled, and his parents never say no or give him consequences, so he goes to anyone's house and has bad behavior. And 3, my mom only watches my kids for about 3 hours every day. But my sister-in-law is dropping off her kids all day at my house, even when my kids aren't being watched. I talked to my mom and she said she doesn't know if she's comfortable with watching 4 kids at once. But she'll try if needed, and it's ultimately up to me if my brother's kids can come over since it's my house. So I told my brother and sister-in-law no. And sister-in-law has been sending me the rudest messages about how I'm turning my kids spoiled and letting them have their grandmother's favoritism, etc., etc. Also, that I could afford a nanny, but I'm choosing to use my mother when she and my brother can't afford other childcare. I just reminded her that she's a stay-at-home mom, and it's her job to look after her kids, not my mother's, and blocked her. So am I the a-hole? Adding for clarification from some comments I've gotten. I have absolutely no issues if my mom wants to go over to my brother's/sister-in-law's house to watch their kids. But my issue is that sister-in-law wants to just drop her kids off at my house all day to have my mother watch them, so sister-in-law can have an empty and mess-free house. She's basically trying to use my mom at my house as a daycare. Also, I take deep issue with her just dropping off her kids at my house without notifying me or my husband, or even asking my mom. Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Your mom isn't doing this for free. You're essentially paying her bills and giving her a place to live. In exchange, she's watching your children. If sister-in-law wants her to watch her children, she should move her into her house and pay her bills. Her elementary age, presumably potty-trained children, in a home with all their stuff, which is wildly different than toddler/preschoolers who don't have their toys/food/extra clothes. Totally not the same. Not to mention the difference between 3.5 hours with elementary-aged kids versus all day with toddlers without any heads up. The cherry on top is, sister-in-law is a stay-at-home parent. She has enough flexibility to coordinate timing with her mother-in-law, if mother-in-law is interested. She didn't care though, and just dumped her kids without warning. Not the a-hole. Watching an 11 and 8-year-old for 4 hours is way different than a 2 and 4-year-old all day, especially when their mom is not working. Yeah, I mean, if it's like an occasional thing and OP is a hard no way, that's one thing and may warrant discussion. Every day or regularly, though, is ridiculous. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to drive to my wife's monthly family get-together? My wife, 33 female, and I, 35 male, have been married for 3 years. Her family is very tight-knit, and every month they have a family get-together at my wife's parents' house. It is always on Sundays because my wife's siblings have kids, and they all have activities on Saturdays, so Sunday is the only free day everyone has. They live a 3-hour drive from us, so we always make a day trip because obviously we have to work on Monday. Needless to say, it's a lot of driving in one day. The get-together is usually just a nice meal and some games, nothing too fancy or crazy. I like her family and enjoy hanging out with them, but there have been times when I don't feel like going. And there's no hard feelings about not attending. The problem is that, if I don't attend, my wife doesn't attend. She's a very anxious driver, especially on freeways and highways where aggressive drivers and semi-trucks tend to be more common. She's never been in an accident or anything like that. She just doesn't feel comfortable driving long distances on freeways with speeding cars. It freaks her out. So if I don't go, she won't drive herself there. There also isn't anyone else from her family that lives nearby that could come pick her up without adding at least 2 hours to their drive. Last month we didn't attend because I had just gotten back from a work trip and wanted to use that weekend to relax at home. My wife and in-laws understood. This month's get-together is this coming Sunday, and my wife is adamant that we attend this one because we missed the last one. I told her I will go, but she is going to have to drive at least one leg of the trip. I don't want to be driving for 6 hours like every other time. This started a fight because she said I know how much she hates driving on freeways and that's too far of a drive for her to keep from freaking out. I told her that if she wants to keep driving 6 hours in a day to see her family every month, then she's going to need to start driving at least half of it because I'm tired of doing all that driving by myself. I told her that I will be with her in the car and will be a good co-pilot to keep her calm and focused. Unlike when I drive and she buries her face in her phone for 2/3 of the drive. I told her we can take it slow and easy, and it will be a good practice for her to become more comfortable with that type of driving. She's not agreeing to this, and is insisting that I drive like every other time because of her anxiety about it. I am refusing to budge, and told her that this is something for her family, so she needs to start putting in at least some effort to make it happen. She thinks I'm being a jerk about it, and not taking her feelings into consideration and being dismissive of her anxiety. We have not come to an agreement to this yet, but I really don't want to give in. Driving 6 hours in a day can be exhausting, and I'm tired of being the only one to do it, especially when it's every month. Not the a-hole. Honestly, I think you're approaching it very fairly. 6 hours of driving is definitely a lot. It's not fair of her to expect you to bear that entire burden every time to visit her family without driving at least part of the distance. And you pointing out that you'll be there supporting her as a co-pilot is the right approach. I can understand how anxiety makes driving scary/hard for some people. But also, it's really not fair to expect you to be the only one making the sacrifice here. My wife has actually suggested going there on Saturdays before, but honestly, I don't want to sacrifice an entire weekend every month to see her family. One Sunday a month? Fine, that's doable because at least I can have Saturday to do something I want to do. But one entire weekend every month is too much. Not the a-hole. Maybe you're being dismissive of her anxiety, but she's also being dismissive of yours. A monthly 6-hour round trip sounds exhausting. It seems like you've been a champ about it thus far. You'll eventually have to come to a long-term compromise though. Agree you'll only go every other month from now on or something like that. It seems like there has been some resentment bubbling about this for a while, and figuring out only what to do for this particular trip will only be a band-aid.